Before the skyscrapers, before the highways, before the world began watching the rise of the Emirates, there was a small coin. A single dirham. A simple piece of metal that marked the start of something much bigger. The year was 1973. The United Arab Emirates was just 2 years old. The country was still finding its voice, shaping its identity, and building its foundation. And in the middle of this new beginning, the UAE introduced its first national coinage. Among these coins was the 1 dirham you're looking at today. It may appear modest. A coffee pot. 2 dates. A circular border. But every detail on this coin carries history. Every line represents a culture that has stood strong for centuries. Today, we'll explore the story behind the 1973 UAE 1 dirham. Not just what it looks like, but what it means. To understand the importance of this coin, you need to imagine the region before the Emirates became one country. Each emirate has its own way of trading. Some use the Qatar and Dubai Riyal. Others use the Bahraini dinar. And a generation earlier, the Indian rupee circulated widely. There was no single financial identity. No shared currency to bring the Emirates together. When the UAE was formed in 1971, one of the first questions was simple but vital. How do we build trust, unity, and stability? A national currency was the answer. The introduction of the dirham in 1973 was one of the first major steps in unifying everyday life across the newborn country. From Abu Dhabi to Fujairah, from Dubai to Sharjah, people began using the same money, the same symbol of national unity. The coin you see today is from this very first year. Money isn't just used to buy things. It's a sign of independence. When a country has its own currency, it tells the world, we stand on our own. For a young nation like the UAE, this is just economics. It was confidence. The first dirham series had to represent the culture and values of the Emirates. It needs to be simple, clear, and dignified. Something that felt traditional but also ready for a modern future. The 1 dirham became the face of that identity. The design of this coin is iconic. At the center is the Dallah, the traditional Arabian coffee pot. To understand why it was chosen, you need to understand what coffee means in Emirati life. For centuries, a Dallah was present in every majlis. It represented generosity, welcome, and respect. If someone enters your home, even if they were a stranger, you offer coffee. It wasn't optional. It was part of who you were. In the desert, hospitality was survival. People shared food and drink freely because the land was harsh and life depended on cooperation. The Dallah became a symbol of honor and friendship. Conversations began with coffee. Agreements began with coffee. Even conflicts softened over coffee. So when the UAE created its first currency, the Dallah was more than decoration. It was a message. Our doors are open. Our culture is the heart of our nation. Below the Dallah, you see 2 dates. The left date is in the Hijri calendar, 1393 AH. The right date is in the Gregorian calendar, 1973 AD. Using both calendars showed balance. It honored Islamic history while connecting to the global timeline. It said, we are rooted in tradition, but we are part of the modern world. This small detail made the coin meaningful far beyond its value. In the early 1970s, the UAE was undergoing rapid change. Oil had been discovered, but development was still in its early stages. Most people live in small towns or villages. Roads were limited. Infrastructure was just the beginning. When the first dirham coins entered circulation, they quickly became part of daily life. Shopkeepers used them in small wooden stalls. Fishermen used them to buy tools for their wooden dhows. Families used them to purchase dates, rice, and essentials in traditional markets. Every time this coin passed from one hand to another, it silently recorded the story of a growing nation. Although the UAE had introduced the dirham, the coins were not produced inside the Emirates at first. They were minted abroad, mainly in European mints, using copper-nickel alloy. Each coin was made to be durable, resistant to heat, and able to survive constant handling. This is why, even today, many 1973 dirhams still exist in decent condition. Their durability was intentional. They were built to last through a time when life was rougher, when coins were carried in pockets, bags, and sometimes even tied in cloth. While the Dallah sits proudly on the front, the reverse side carries the denomination written in Arabic and English. This was a practical choice. The UAE has a population that includes traders, travelers, and workers from around the region. Having the denomination in two languages made it easier for everyone to use, regardless of background. This bilingual approach also reflected the UAE's early vision, traditional at its core, but open to the world. To truly appreciate this coin, you have to imagine the UAE in 1973. Dubai's skyline was flat. Abu Dhabi was still building its first major roads. Sharjah and Ras Al Khaimah were mostly quiet coastal towns. There were no mega malls, no giant bridges, no high-rise hotels. People still live close to the land and the sea. Many worked as pearl divers, fishermen, traders, or in small markets. Families gathered in majlis-style seating, sharing stories late into the night. Life was simple but rich in tradition. This coin belongs to that era. It carries the atmosphere of a country on the edge of transformation. The 1973 UAE 1 dirham is not extremely rare, but it holds great historical importance. Collectors value it because it represents the first moment the UAE's own currency entered the world. Coins from the first series, especially in sharp condition, are sought after because they're the beginning of the UAE's monetary history. Every country has a first generation of coins, and for the Emirates, this is it. Some collectors focus on the alignment of the dates, the sharpness of the Dallah, or the quality of the edge. Others simply want it as a keepsake of the country they love. It isn't about how much the coin is worth in money. It's about what it represents in time. The Dallah design remained on the dirham for decades. From 1973 until 2012, this coffee pot was part of everyday life. Children grew up seeing it. Adults used it in markets, shops, and banks. It became one of the most recognizable icons in the country. When the UAE updated the dirham design, it wasn't just a redesign. It felt like the end of a chapter that lasted almost 40 years. This is why the 1973 version feels special. It's the very first of that long chapter. Think about how many hands this coin might have passed through. It traveled through souks, early government offices, fishing villages, and expanding cities. It lived through the UAE's transformation from a humble federation to a global center of trade, tourism, and technology. These coins were part of daily life during the first airports, the first schools, the first hospitals, and the first major companies. It's a silent witness to history. The most beautiful thing about the 1973 dirham is how it blends heritage and modernity. The Dallah represents culture. The metal represents progress. The double dates represent connection. The bilingual text represents openness. This single coin tells you what the UAE wants to become. A country proud of its past and ambitious about its future. When you look at this coin today, you're looking at the UAE at its beginning. You're looking at the early confidence of a new nation. And you're looking at a design that honors the values that still shape Emirati society. It's more than a coin. It's a small piece of national memory. The 1973 UAE 1 dirham is a reminder that great nations often begin with simple steps. A new flag, a new anthem, and a new currency. This coin captured the spirit of a young country ready to define its place in the world. Hold it for a moment. Feel its weight. You're holding the first chapter of the UAE's story. A chapter written not in words, but in metal.